We're going to talk a little bit about Shift, Twitter account that releases RLCS esports roster rumors, roster leaks, and whether or not that's a good or bad thing. 2 days ago is when this begins. A roster rumor is published by Shift that Atomic is trying out with G2. And obviously community goes buck wild because I don't think many expected that. The following day, which was yesterday, they published that the move is apparently not going to work out. So Atomic will remain on Envy and Drees will remain on G2. That's kind of where all this initiates. That's where some of the frustration, at least from pros, initiate. So I just want to discuss it. What are my thoughts about the whole thing? What are you guys' thoughts about the whole thing? The best way, in my opinion, to try to arrive at a conclusion is to try to exercise some empathy and place yourself in each party's position. I think the first one that will probably be the easiest is to just place ourselves in Shift. From their perspective, I think it's probably good. They are growing a brand. They are creating some content that there's high demand for. There's a very serious demand for behind the scenes information like that. A lot of us we'll never hear about this stuff, right? We'll never hear about this stuff. So from Shift's perspective, I think it's mostly good. It's not like Shift is just posting stuff without real information. Here's what I think we need to understand. I think a lot of this stuff is very real. The rumors are very real. And then what happens is a buyout can't happen, or organizations are not willing to pay for a new player or things like that. Drevin, I actually think that is a very, very important point. And I want to pin that on the board and then nobody forget about it. And we'll come back to it throughout this discussion. The other aspect of this is that it's different from normal sports because we are dealing mostly with kids. And yes, some of these are, I know, we talk about 20, 24, 25. Dude, that's still young, right? And we dip all the way down to 15, 16 years old. That's very young. One thing I feel would help is removing the certain likely tags. Make sure it is clear that these are just rumors instead of making it seem like they're set in stone. I hear that. I think that's fair. Or maybe even just changing the language a little bit, because certain, like you say, certain definitely implies hey, this is happening. So from Shift's perspective, is it bad? No, it's a good thing. They're providing information that otherwise would never see the light of day, and many benefit from that. Let's go to consumers, viewers, fans. From our perspective, is it bad? And I think it's a resounding no. I do want to put an asterisk here because I think a lot of the negativity comes from fans and their aggressive response to some of the rumors. Many, many times we see a rumor and the first thing that you see is 10 tweets underneath it. That's a trash decision. That's so stupid. Team's going to be awful. They shouldn't have kicked X or whatever. It's a very, very aggressive and intense response. And again, we pinned this point to the board and I want to come back to it. These are first and foremost people, humans. They have real emotions. They read these things and they see it and it impacts them. But two, they're kids. These are kids. And yes, I think if you're under 25, yes, you can still be considered a kid. At the very least, young. I think a lot of it is the fans' fault. Now, I don't know that there's really a solution because people get passionate about these things and they're going to say negative stuff about it. But I think a lot of the negativity comes from the fan response, not necessarily the rumor. The rumor happens, and then the way people respond to it is what's so negative on the pros. We're all getting so angry at Shift, and it's wait, is that really who we should be mad at? Yes, I think you're right, the man. And I agree with you what you said earlier. I think it's more on the fans. It's important for us to consider what we're posting. There's a big difference in posting more fact-oriented opinions and posting personal attacks. You're exactly right, the man. You're exactly right. So, just a quick recap. From Shift perspective, are the leaks rumors bad? No. From consumer perspective, are the leaks rumors bad? No. Let's move to the player perspective. The first thing that I want to look at is, I screenshot it, and I don't know how people feel about this, but I absolutely knew it was going to be deleted. I didn't know. It actually lasted up a lot longer than I thought it would, but I knew it would be deleted. This is a tweet from Chicago. I rarely let this stuff get to me, but I just have to say, screw Shift and screw Reddit. So much BS and absurd lies spreading. And yes, I should stop looking at it, but trust me, I see it everywhere I go. Sorry, but I needed to let it off my chest. I don't blame him for getting it off his chest. I'm sure it is frustrating. I think this is a misplaced frustration. And I think we can easily draw that conclusion because we say, Reddit is a place for people to discuss. And so really what it is screw fans. Screw viewers. Screw Rocket League esports consumers. That's what this is saying. The leaking of the rumor itself is really not what is BS and lies. That's not what's lies. What's lies and BS is all the people that are saying these things and assuming these things from the rumor, right? We hear G2 making a roster change, and people go berserk. People go crazy. They start, assuming things about Chicago or assuming things about the team dynamic, and we don't know. We don't know what it is. We have no idea. Now, before we go too far, I do want to show this because later in the evening, Shift and I spoke in private about how we can help these kind of situations improve for both parties so the issues can be a thing of the past. I definitely overreacted, but I don't regret my tweet from earlier as it hopefully will lead to a better future. I have a ton of respect for this. I think this is the best way to handle this. It takes a lot of maturity to speak to those people that you're frustrated with and try to come to a conclusion, try to come to a resolution. And then it takes even more humility to put something like this out. To say, I definitely overreacted, that is a very mature response. But I agree with him. I don't think he should regret tweeting it out. Those were his feelings at the time, and it did lead to a discussion. My overall take on all of this is I don't think anything is wrong, and I think it's probably a good thing that all of this occurred because progress will be made. And I definitely think, and I've talked about this many times, I definitely think this situation in particular, the Rocket League community has just gone crazy because they love Drees. The Rocket League community absolutely adores Drees, and anytime there's any discussion about this or any mention of this, they become very hateful. I do want to show some responses to the original tweet that Chicago sent out. So we all know Sizz, very outspoken. Shift has always been a joke from the start. They snake their info from moronic inside sources that don't know how to keep their mouths shut and claim rumors as facts because their Twitter has been dry and irrelevant. This part, I think, is more important than most of everything else he said. Look, if pro players don't like rumors, then pro players shouldn't speak. And it's not just pro players, but coaches and managers and everyone that's involved. If they all, as a consensus, don't like this, don't share it. And I know that kind of sounds like that's a simple, like, write it off solution, but it is the solution. If you don't like this, then don't share it. This is, Sinful JB, Vice President of Clover Talent. Clover Talent is an agency, like a player management agency, talent agency, and they help a lot of these teams and players get signed to organizations, okay? And he says, Shift pisses me off a lot. Let that be indicative about their credibility. And what he's saying is, they piss me off because they are usually correct, okay? So a lot of our frustration as a community is, well, Shift is just tweeting out everything. They don't even know it. Well, a lot of people that do know this information are saying they actually are very credible. Of course, there are going to be some mishaps. Like we said earlier, of course, they're going to report some things and the deal doesn't go through. Of course. But they're not just making stuff up out of thin air. All right, so this is apparently Jack, Dignitas player, actually relatively new pro. A lot of the time, I really, really enjoy Jack's takes on things. I think he's a very mature pro for like the short amount of time that he's been a pro. So he starts off with a meme here. Shift when they see their Discord gaining 10K members a minute from pros mauling on Twitter. This is too funny. I love this. I'll add fuel to the fire and say that I've had no bad experience with Shift, and for EU, at least, they get their info from extremely credible sources. I think what they do for the scene is very good and is one of those things that you won't realize how good it was for the fan base until it's gone. I feel like if you're going to complain about it, you may want to come at it from a non-reactionary and emotional viewpoint instead of talking about it after seeing fans go off on the only information they've been given. Fans talking about rumors is good for the game. As much as pros despise it and hate how much fans can be wrong at times, ultimately we have to admit it is great for the esport and the game. We are complaining about the wrong thing here. If you don't like your info being spread, take it out on the people who are giving out your info to Shift in the first place. Couldn't agree more. I'll take more eyes and discussions on myself and my team any day of the week. I feel that it is beneficial for us more beneficial for us all if handled correctly. But hey, everyone has different experiences, and I don't want to discredit anyone's personal experiences or say they are lying. I think that is, I think that's it. I think that is the take. I think that is correct. It was very calm and collected. It was very respectful, even at the end, right? Doesn't want to discredit anyone. I wanted to look at those opinions of players and just kind of absorb that information. And I wanted to then reflect on the question originally, are RLCS leaks and rumors bad? And now we've done it from Shift perspective. We've reflected from a fan or viewer perspective. And now I want to reflect from a player perspective. And so if I'm a player, how does a leak or a rumor impact me? The most basic one is like, a guaranteed roster change happens, right? A new org signing or whatever, and it's leaked. Okay, well, a lot of the excitement and enthusiasm and energy is deflated. So that's one thing. So that'd be a negative. We've also seen some of these over the last few days in this trade window specifically, where a rumor gets out and it ends up not panning out, right? It may have been true, like those things did occur. Like, let's say, for example, this is a theoretical, I don't know any of these things, but let's say Atomic did try out with G2. That is true, but it didn't have to get to the public. And from a player perspective, I would probably rather it not get to the public. I would rather have that tryout, things don't work out, I keep Drees, no one ever knows a thing. Nobody needs to know a thing. That's my business. So I understand that. And again, from a player perspective, that would be negative. A much less appealing aspect of it, I think Jack is right. You may not directly feel it as a player, but these rumors and these leaks generate excitement and enthusiasm around the esport, which generates more fans, more consumers, which indirectly will impact you as a player by potentially raising your salary, potentially giving you more opportunities, growing the esport that you're pursuing long term. From a player perspective, there is again, less sexy, less appealing, and more indirect, but I do think there is a positive impact, even from the player perspective, from leaks and rumors. You may not, as an individual, you may not like it, and it may be uncomfortable for you in the moment, but even from a player perspective, I think there are positives to it. So the one thing that I want to say is, if we're mostly mad that the truth is surfacing, maybe we need to reflect a little bit. If what is true being released, then we may want to ask ourselves, why am I upset about that when it's real, when it's true? And if the answer is because people know it's true, then you may want to reflect about your decisions. Maybe we shouldn't have done those things. And if we do those things and it is true, then maybe we need to just learn to wear what we do and live with it. I think, in conclusion, I think we can kind of all agree that it's definitely something that benefits all parties in some form or fashion. I think we can all agree that there is absolutely some negative impact on players and organizations, especially if information ends up being incorrect in the end. And it may not be that the information was incorrect in that moment, but it ended up playing out incorrect. Like a deal didn't go through, a buyout couldn't happen, whatever. And I think the biggest takeaway is, one, if players don't like this type of stuff in general, I think we should encourage them to be a little more tight-lipped. And two, and probably more importantly, consumers and fans need to understand that these are people. This is not a character in a cartoon where you can say whatever you want and it won't have an impact. These are people, and your words and your messages have a real impact on a real person, a young person at that. And I think we just need to understand how to be respectful. The discussion is amazing. The enthusiasm and excitement around this is amazing. Y'all, I mean, if you hang out here, this is all we do. We just, we yip and yap and we talk about all kinds of roster stuff, and it's fun, but we can do it in a respectful manner.